Welcome back to Off the Carousel on Field of 68, your introduction to all 60 plus new head coaches across Division One. Today, we're going to know Matthew Graves, the new head coach at Indiana State. Coach, thanks for taking the time.
No, I appreciate it, Kevin. Glad to be here.
So I know you grew up not too far from campus and have spent, most of your career in Indiana. I guess I'd start, after the year you guys had in 23-24, like what is the energy around Terre Haute and this Indiana State program right now? You probably know it as well as anyone.
No, it's unbelievable. The vibe, the energy, obviously coming off of the special run that we had last year, there's a lot of excitement. And then, you go through a period of change. Obviously, Coach Schertz moves on to St. Louis, and, the rest of the starting five plus a couple others graduated and moved on to different spots. But, as the summers wore on and we were able to bring, some new players to campus, people are excited. They're anxious for basketball season. Season ticket sales, we're about to sell out the whole lower bowl. It's close to being sold out. So, it's a really good thing. And the people really, and I've always said this, in the Wabash Valley, people understand basketball. You've got a lot of people that are coaches that sit in those stands and really critique and like good basketball. And they know what good basketball looks like. And, they're excited to see what this next chapter brings.
Last season, obviously, so remarkable for your program, but really, and we were talking about this before we started recording, like this was a 3-year build for you guys under Josh Schertz to go from 11 wins to 23, all of a sudden to 32 and, be in, a championship position, right? Like what were the core values that allowed you guys to ascend so quickly from a rebuild to being one of the best teams in college basketball a year ago?
Well, I think one thing people have to understand, it is a process. Everybody says, it's a process. It's a process. It's about culture and different things like that. But at the end of the day, we were able to develop some continuity. Just as an example, last year, we basically played a rotation of 6 guys. And out of those 6 guys, 4 of them had been in the program for multiple years. Julian Larry, Xavier Bledson, played a lot of basketball. Jason Kent had played a lot of basketball and been in the system. And, Robbie was in his second year of understanding, how we play and what we want to look like offensively and how we want to operate. And then, we were able to do a tremendous job in adding Isaiah Swope and Ryan Comwell kind of as those missing pieces, guards with, elite ball skills and being able to get in the paint and make threes and make plays for others. And those 6 guys really fit. But you think about it, 4 of those 6 guys, so, 66% of, your roster that you played significant minutes were together. And that's huge, to play the way we're going to play and how we played in the past. You've got to have that continuity and, that corporate knowledge, as Josh would always refer to it. And, that's what we're working on this summer, working hard and, looking to, continue to carry over a lot of those same concepts.
Down the stretch during that NIT run, I mean, I have to imagine that was a pretty unique period for you personally and for the program, right? I mean, the disappointment of not making the NCAA tournament, attempting to go on a run and make history for Indiana State, right? The NIT is still a huge accomplishment. All the noise on the outside about Coach Schertz potentially, departing as he eventually did to St. Louis. How did you personally balance those weeks and deal with so much outside noise and so much, pressure and disappointment and excitement all at once? It just seems like it was such a tumultuous couple of weeks. Guys,
it's a great question. You go through a lot of emotions, and you try to really fight hard to stay in the moment, but yet it's hard. On one end, you're thinking about, okay, if Josh happens to leave, do I want to go, or do I have the opportunity to go wherever he's going? And obviously there's all kinds of rumors on what schools were courting him and talking to him and things like that. On the other hand, you've got, the fact of, hey, I have a chance to be a head coach again. And obviously it's, People know, the big knock on me at this point was my head coaching record at South Alabama wasn't great. And you learn from those experiences. And, here you've got an opportunity to be a head coach, potentially, in a great situation and a great fit. And then you're thinking about the players, throughout all this. They're the ones that, didn't have the opportunity to play in the NCAA tournament, which is such a, a special thing to do. I've been fortunate to play in the NCAA tournament as a player and then also coach in it. And, for your players that deserved it and didn't get in, you feel bad for them. And then, you have the other emotion of, wow, we get to play, a high major team right off the bat, in the Holman Center to start this thing off. And if we're able to, make a run, we get to play in Hinkle Fieldhouse. And I'll never forget, I can't remember which reporter asked me this question, but they said, do you feel like your team's going to get cheated out of going to play in Madison Square Garden and instead of Hinkle Fieldhouse? And I almost wanted to choke the guy, but I had some restraint and just for our fans, to get to experience the 3 games that we played here in the Holman Center, and then to drive an hour and 30 minutes up the road to Hinkle Fieldhouse to pack that place and really give it a great feel. What a special run. You couldn't have scripted it any better, other than playing in the NCAA tournament. So our guys, you feel for them on one hand that they didn't get to experience that, but what they were able to experience through these 3 games in the Holman Center, and then culminating in playing 2 games in Hinkle Fieldhouse, was certainly something that they're going to remember for the rest of their lives.
You mentioned the experience at South Alabama, and I think back a lot to the interview that Frank Martin did after he got fired at South Carolina, and talked about like the toll it took on his family and how challenging it was to kind of get humbled in that way. I'm curious for you, did you think you would get another opportunity to be a head coach after, that ended the way it did? And how did you balance the emotions of getting another opportunity, 6 years later?
Yeah, it was tough. When these jobs are so hard to get, you're in college, the media side of it, and you have a lot of friends in people that of that get fired, and they don't get a second chance. Or we know a lot of guys that have never gotten that first opportunity that absolutely deserve a chance to be a head coach, whether it's assistant coaches or D2 coaches or D3 coaches. There's a lot of guys out there that just don't get that opportunity. And, for me to get a second chance, I knew it would be a long shot. And, when Coach Schertz got this job and I was at Xavier with Coach Steele, I was in that special assistant to the head coach role. And he asked me to come here and be his associate head coach. Really, for me, that was a calculated, risk. I felt like, okay, if I want to ever be a head coach again, if I can go to Indiana State and help Coach Schertz, get to the level that we think we can here, and he's able to move on at some point, I may have a shot here because it's in my backyard, it's in my home state. I know a lot of people, so to think that would happen in 3 short years. I couldn't have bet the world on that one, but I'm certainly thankful, and I don't take it for granted one bit, because there are a lot of deserving and really good coaches, all over the place at many, many different levels that don't get the opportunity. So, I'm excited for it. Obviously there's a lot of pressure, being in your backyard. But at the same time, I wouldn't have it any other way, because if there wasn't pressure, that to me, that means probably people don't care enough. And when you got people that really care, they're really invested, and we're going through a lot of changes, here at Indiana State. We got a new president, we got a new athletic director. I'm a new coach. We got new baseball coach, new softball coach, new women's basketball coach. So there's a lot of change happening here at Indiana State. And, I'm excited, to be on the forefront of that with everybody, and with the new energy that's coming in, and you've got the momentum from last year and what we were able to do, and not just us, but what the baseball team was able to accomplish, and the run they've had and been on. So there's a lot of positive momentum, and we're excited to see what happens in this upcoming season.
If you haven't heard by now, we have partnered with BetMGM Sportsbook. We are going to be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers of the Field of 68 throughout the year. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, you can use bonus code FIELD, and you will get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. The best part, all you need to do is deposit and bet $10 of your own hard-earned money to be eligible. Here's how you make it work. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using that bonus code FIELD. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure that you use that bonus code FIELD when you sign up. BetMGM is going to have some fun offers available throughout the NBA playoffs. Bet insurance tokens, odds boost, and what I love, a nice parlay boost or two from time to time, as well as a ridiculous array of player prop bets for any sport that you could possibly imagine betting on. BetMGM is and always will be the king of the prop bet. So go download the BetMGM app, use the bonus code FIELD, and sign up today. And while I've got you, a quick request. The best way to support the Field of 68 content that you get for free is to engage with us. Rate and review the podcast. Like and share the YouTube videos. Tell your friends about us. It all helps in a world where the algorithm is king. And now, back to the show.
It's funny because the game has changed so much in the last 10 years with transfers and NIL, and just it's a completely different world. But I'm curious what lessons you take from that first head coaching experience at South Alabama, and things you think maybe you want to do similarly and things you want to do differently now with your second go around here this time around.
Well, you're exactly right. The landscape has changed so much. When I was at South Alabama, even with the transfer, you didn't have the transfer portal. Kids transferred and they had to sit out a year. So, unless they were a grad transfer. So, that part was unique. The high school basketball recruiting, in the South was really, unique for me. I had no connections, to that area. And, it was tough, building a staff, finding the right players that fit me. That was tough. So, being back here made that transition much easier. I was more comfortable in my own skin. Before, when I went to South Alabama, I'd really only known Butler. People joke that I was living in the Butler bubble for so long that I didn't know what the real world was like. And so certainly being able to use those experiences that I got as a head coach, and then, even moving on to different spots, being at Evansville for a year, being at Xavier for a couple years, and then being under Josh Schertz for 3 years. These last, 6, 7 years have really changed a way that I see the game, the different experiences, and they're going to all add and really make me a better coach. And what I've been able to do early is put a staff around me that I feel very comfortable about. We got a lot of diversity amongst our staff as far as, experiences and where they're from and who they've coached and those things. And I think that's ultimately going to help make this transition much smoother than the first one there at South Alabama.
You mentioned the Butler bubble. You were a part of some pretty special teams at Butler, obviously 2 national championship games, and I got to work under Brad Stevens, which I think for anyone in basketball is kind of like the golden ticket, right? It's an incredible experience, right? Yep. So I guess the question probably the average fan would like to know is what is the magic of Brad Stevens as a coach in March, and where did that come from, or where did you see it from behind the scenes?
Well, being with him for 12 years, you understand that what people see, in the media and his coaching and things like that, you can't put into words just the kind of person that he is and how the relationships, what they mean. And, my relationship with him, he's been a tremendous friend to me for a long time. And, I'm so happy that they were able to, win that NBA championship this season, and how hard and how much work he's put into that. But at the same time, his relationships with staff, with players, his preparation, is really unmatched, from the people that I've been around and had the opportunity to work with. And, what Brad did for me is help me grow and stretch and develop as a coach, because he really empowers his assistants, to go out and coach and think outside the box, and, bring ideas to the table. And really that team ego and that mindset, is something that, is always going to resonate, with me and when working with Brad.
Curious the advice you got from Josh Schertz as he departed for St. Louis and kind of left you the keys to this program. Curious, like, obviously, I think you'll want to follow some of the same things that made you successful. But I'm curious what you take from working under him and how it'll shape your program vision for what Indiana State is.
Well, I was fortunate. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind, Josh is one of the best offensive basketball minds, in basketball today. He is an elite offensive mind. And the way he goes about, teaching, the offensive side of the ball, the way the preparation, the film watching, all those things, you take from. But, for me, I had 3 years of a front row seat to a basketball clinic. And, I'm always going to be grateful, for those opportunities that he gave me to be here for 3 years. And, I think from him, one of the biggest things, I took was how much 5-on-5 we play, and the teaching that you do, out of playing 5-on-5, and the amount of film investment that we had in our players. Those two things really resonated with me, and they were so different, from what I had experienced, in all of my previous years of coaching. And those two things are going to be staples, as we continue to move forward.
Then maybe the most important question about Josh Schertz: how much pickleball did he bring to Indiana State, and will you be continuing that?
I'll tell you what, I never saw him play pickleball here, so I think he was holding out. You heard about his, legendary status as a tennis player, and, I don't know if he transitioned to the pickleball court to, maybe mask some of his athleticism that he's lost over the years. But I've got to see some video footage of the pickleball now. So we'll have to see how that goes.
All right, last question for you, Coach. There's probably more momentum at Indiana State right now than there has been for a long time, but you've got a new group, new people around you, right? You mentioned president, AD, other coaches. How do you continue to maintain this upward trajectory at Indiana State?
Well, again, I think as a program, we've got to continue to improve, continue to get better, show improvement from, day 1 to day 10 to day 100. And, at the end of the day, our goal is simple, very simple. We want to be a team that's good enough when we get on the bus on March 1st to drive over to St. Louis and compete in Arch Madness. We want to feel like we have a team that's good enough, to compete, to cut down the nets. Now, what we're going to look like in November better be drastically different than what we look like in December, January, and obviously March, because, the Missouri Valley Conference is a top 10 conference in the league, in the country. And we've got a young group that has got to continue to grow, develop, gel, kind of find its own rhythm as we move throughout the season. But, ultimately we want to feel like we have a team that can compete for a championship come March. And that's our only focus. And that's what our goal is going to be, to get better every day and hopefully get to that point in March where we can say, yeah, we have a legitimate shot.
Coach Graves, we're looking forward to watching. Thanks so much